What's up guys, everyone is doing well. In today's video I'm going to mainly just be focusing on Bitcoin, and then at the very tail end of the video I'm going to go over a single altcoin called Verge. But to go ahead and get it started here for this Bitcoin analysis, some of these charts I've already gone over in some of my more recent videos, but quickly to get the point across for this chart here is with each of these measurements you see down here, these black ones, these black boxes extending upwards towards the bottoms. These are with respect, they start from each 72 bars from the halvings being the second of these two dotted white lines you see on this chart. Pretty much it's just denoting each time the halving being directly correlated to when the bottom is going to be set in according to this analysis. Now what I mainly added to this chart, so you see this Grim Reaper right here, and then what I was trying to find was more like an angel holding like a lightning bolt or something, but I could, every time, if you just look that up, pretty much just like Zeus figures come up. So it's technically Zeus, but I meant it more to be like an angel with a lightning bolt. But what I want to get across with this is just how the price, which it's pretty much been like a bull flag with a falling wedge, is what we've seen since the March crash back here, the previous halving range, up to our most recent all-time high, 69,000, to the current lows we've set at around 15.4. But the idea here is that we get a bull flag in form of a Grim Reaper scythe, basically, which is again why I have this image. And then that's going to, once it finally gets to the point, given it is a falling wedge, it's going to be bullish. It's going to have a bullish breakout at some point that then flips into what you see down here, being more associative with the more positive of the dichotomy that I'm pointing at here with the lightning bolt. And that's funnily enough what the pattern looks like. Also just what the pattern looks like given the current phase 1 that we are in of the current cycle 3 for Bitcoin. Going back to the previous one would be this price formation back here, this lightning bolt. It's just an ABC or an ABCD pattern, is what it's typically known as, like from traditional market terms. But that was pretty much all that I added to this. To go ahead and zoom in to this pattern before I get to the upcoming highs and the pretty much all the scenarios that I possibly see. So right now it's pivotal to see a break above around 17.5 to 18,000 with some strength continuing towards the upside, eventually getting above around 18.7 to 19,000, and then breaking above 20,000, approximately 19.7 to 20,000. But if we do get rejected here, as I've been saying in general, around 15,000 to, at worst case scenario, at this point, anywhere down to around 9,000 approximately, if I had to say. And it's entertaining it all the way down to not this last bubble, but this second bubble right here. And my bad, not even the second bubble, so this first box actually, which is just pretty much the brunt of all the consolidation and the potential support we built up back here during this W of this phase 1 we made before this all-time high up here. So if we do continue to get rejected, either we will, at worst case scenario, as I said, extend down to around approximately 10,000, maybe seeing some wicks down to around 9,000 or so. But outside of that, so if we don't get rejected here, or even if we do get rejected, these price targets, what I'm about to go over in terms of the upcoming bull market, still stands. But if we do continue to go lower from here, just know that the price targets in terms of the time would be extended, I don't know, probably approximately 4 to 6 months later than what I will go over for what I have on this chart currently. But again, to go back to the halving idea that I pointed out earlier in this chart, that puts and projects our next bull reversal starting just approximately February 13th. I think it could extend sometime towards March, especially if we go down a little bit lower from where we are currently. But once we do finally get the bull reversal, whenever it does begin, these are pretty much the three. So these three colored, the yellow, black, and the white fractal, are the bars patterns that I have on here. I personally believe that the yellow one's more likely, and which will take us up to, just in general, of a range around 200 to 300,000. I think there's a sweet spot of around 220 to 260, 70,000 or so. And I think that will, in terms of the two scenarios, in terms of the time, either towards the end of next year, or not, my bad, it is 2023 now, so towards the end of this year, and then if it does extend a little bit, for example, if we bottom out some more, it could push more towards the actual halving range right here in 2024 from around March or so, June of that year, so 2024, if we do continue to bottom out further than we have. So that is the first route. And the second route, which is a composite of these two, the black and white patterns. So if we take the second route, I think there's two different ways this could possibly end. For this route, I would see the all-time high coming in more around just sometime within the year of 2025. And before I even get to that, so this yellow pattern is from March of 2020 to March of 2021. Which again, as I said, more accurately adheres to the fact that we're in phase 1 of a cycle, being cycle 3 right now. So this should technically be what we see structure-wise, something self-similar to this. It's not going to be exactly like this, obviously. It'll just be self-similar in terms of its pattern. But this white one is if it is self-similar to so January 2019 to April or March of 2021. The black pattern is if it's self-similar to this bull run of around August 2015 to December 2017. So that's pretty much every bull run that Bitcoin has seen so far. Also just the ones that corresponds to the bullish periods within its cycles and the phases. Which again, that will take us to somewhere, to say like 450, 550,000 approximately. Again, like I said, sometime just during the year 2025. But also, if we do continue to take this yellow path whenever it does eventually reverse, I believe that will again put our bottom range to the next, so cycle 2 of the current phase, or phase 3, excuse me, I'm sorry, phase 2 of the cycle 3 that we're in, which will occur, the bottom range will lose. So what this represents right here, represents pretty much this area back here when we lost this band of this blue moving average. That's also what happened back here in 2018. If we go back to 2015, the same thing happens, and I assume will continue to happen as Bitcoin continues to progress over time. So that then leads us into the bottom range, which is what we've been sitting in since around May 2022 to where we are currently. Again, this lines up with each of these bottom ranges we see right here, going back to 2015. And given this will be the further out in time, obviously, the bull run that the bear market we've seen so far, technically in terms of time and length, has been the worst. In terms of percentage loss, it has not been the worst. The worst one was back in 2015 of 86%. If we see that again, actually given, because in terms of the way this bear market is structured, it is most similar to 2015. So let's just say that we do actually go down another, given the price structure and its self-similarity, another 86% this time around, which will take us to, like I said, 10 to 9,000 if we continue to go further and we hit the worst case scenario. But this one will be far longer than the current. So if we start it from 64,000 and go out to just around the general area, it's like about 47 to 50 bars. If we do it from here, it's around 31, which is on the lower side. It's actually similar to what this one was back here, around 31 or so bars. So in total, this bear market's generally lasted around 47 to 50 bars. And I think this next one could last somewhere around, let's see, 84 at the max, and then at the lowest, somewhere around 73 or 74 to 84 bars, which is again far longer than what we've seen at any time, which again is just factoring into the as Bitcoin progresses over time and its logarithmic structure, the phases are going to, as well as the cycles, obviously, they will lengthen and the percent gains won't be as much as well. But here on this 4-day chart, what I want to put out on here is we're seeing a falling wedge pattern. So from 69,000 to approximately 17.6 with this ABCD you see right here. We've been forming this falling wedge. So according to this, we could possibly see another drop down to approximately 14.8 thousand and then break out from there, which the breakout of this ABCD pattern, or this triangle pattern, or of this falling wedge would be around 16.3, 16.4 would be the pivotal price to break out of if we continue to go down to around 14.8 thousand. We've also retraced, given this retracement, this Fibonacci retracement was taken from the high of 2017 to the bottom of 2018. We have retraced down to the 0.89 0.89, or not 0.89, but just 89, the number, is a Fibonacci and a prime number. And I feel that's just the best retracement to put in between the 786 and the 1 when it comes to looking at a Fibonacci retracement. So I feel like that's a good retracement to be seeing. Again, we could continue to go lower on this chart. I do have it entertained all the way down to 8,000. Actually, go back to this chart real quick. I went entertain it down as low as to around 3,200, which is basically the bottom we set in 2018. I don't think this is going to happen, although at the end of the day, anything can happen and nobody really knows what's going to happen, so I'm not going to put that out of the picture. Who knows, maybe by the time 2024 hits, we're in around $3,000. I mean, that could very likely happen, although I personally don't think it will happen. But again, on this chart, we can see our just various price ranges. Again, as I said, just around 15 to 9,000 approximately. Worst case scenario, realistically looking at it. The bottom bubble, again, I think is, as we set this most recent bottom around November. I think, as I said, it could extend to sometime around March of this year if we continue to go lower, I believe. And if we do bottom out, whether March or now, again, I think the bubble will be similar for leading in towards the end of this year into the beginning of 2024, so December to March. Again, kind of just similar to the bottom bubble of November, December to March, again, December to March. It's kind of how Bitcoin typically plays out. If we take a look back at the March crash, and then we topped out March, April the following year. Again, especially given that this is still the same phase, I believe we'll likely see just similar behavior. So that's another idea to strengthen that as well. Here for this 2-week chart, which is pretty much just a zoomed in version, I suppose, of what I went over on here. So I guess I don't really need to go over that. I guess I can touch on, because I did add this to it as well. If we take a look again at this RSI down here, again, we're still seeing our bullish divergence on here as well with respect to every single bull market. Again, you'll see nice upheaval right here. Price went flat. Again, positive deviation or bullish deviation right here as price went negative. And same thing currently right here with a positive deviation or bullish deviation on the RSI. Price has been going negative the entire time. Again, also just lining up with the time ranges. If we take a look at the stock RSI, we're also seeing a nice lift off. We are seeing this kind of symmetrical trading almost of this, which I personally think is a better thing right now than a worse thing. Even if we see another small minor drop, I still think this would not tank down to the bottom, but kind of just continue to consolidate in this general range that it has been right here until we finally go towards the upside. Also on this, again, 2-weekly chart, we've seen this flip on this MACD. If we go back to March of 2019, this is exactly how it looked pretty much. Bollinger Band's very tight, get the white flip. Again, this looks similar also to this, so the March crash back here. If we even go back all the way back to 2015, we will see the same thing as well. So again, personally, I just believe that whether or not we do get that drop down to 14.7 or even 10,000, it could vary. If that does happen, it could happen very quickly. And I believe just by March or so of this year, approximately February, March, then bottom will have been set in wherever it's going to be, and the market will start to reverse towards the upside. Again, I have a similar idea on this chart with the patterns and the kind of way I've characterized them in this video so far. I wanted to more clearly kind of just point out each of these bubbles where we've bounced at so far. Again, just going down to the general range of around, as I said, 15,000 all the way down to around approximately 9,000 at the worst. Again, this lines up with this nice area to retrace to with respect to price structure if we do want to continue to go lower. Again, back here in May, all the way to around October, November of 2020 before we got the major parabolic movement into the high of 64,000 up here. Here on this 12-hour chart, which I'm kind of going down the timelines if you can tell. So I went from the 2-week, 4-day, now we're at the 2-day. This is what this was, which I guess I need to point that out as well. We're right on the point of, so we're right pretty much in this range, this curved range we've been seeing that we've been rejected at so far again. So, I mean, it's soon we'll find some sort of decision on whether or not Bitcoin's going to break out from here and begin the bull run or continue to go lower. Right now, currently, I would just say 16 to 17,000 right now is a very pivotal price range to be at. Here, if we go lower down to this 12-hour chart, you can see, again, just to further zoom in on how the price looks, you can see we're in this range, as I said. Hopefully we will continue to push above around 16.7 towards 17.6, 18,000, maybe sit there for a little bit and then continue to break into 19, 20,000, as I said previously on the higher time frame. If we continue to go down lower, as I mentioned 14.7 earlier for the falling wedge pattern that I pointed out, that lines up right about right here, so we could just kind of see a pretty gradual trickle off, nearly diagonal towards that, or we could steadily, very steeply drop down towards it. There's this blue descending range I have right here. If we do continue to go further down to the downside, this yellow pattern indicates down to as low. It's pretty much about right at 10,000 on the dot. Again, following through with this same, and this is going according to this 2-day chart. Again, this is the same chart, but now on the 12-hour, falling into this lowermost range if more downside begins to come. Here on this 4-hour chart, again, just further zoomed in here, what I want to point out with these indicators are, as you can see, price has been relatively negative, slightly flat, whereas the RSI, you can see, has been drastically positive towards the upside here. Same thing for the RSI. I mean, realistically, this could be a good thing, could be a bad thing at this point. It's all really just 50-50. If we start to, with strength, break above, like I said, 16.7, push towards 17,000, that lines up with this moving average right here, breaking above this white one, and then most significantly, slowly moving up, or even rather quickly, I suppose. It doesn't really matter, although moving up too quickly isn't always the best thing to see. It would be better to kind of see a gradual build up towards, again, this dark blue moving average, which is kind of what's been weighing us down here on these lower time frames for the most part, going all the way back up to, let's see, and this was back all the way, I'm trying to see when the last time we touched it was. So we crossed below it when we got rejected from 48,000. So again, like I said, this is pretty much this dark blue moving average, more accurately this white moving average, as I said. So again, we just want to see the price significantly with strength push above the white moving average, and then eventually build up to the blue moving average, again breaking, like I said, around 19.5 to 20,000 and continue to move higher from there. Here, if we go to the 2-hour, again, we'll continue to see this kind of bullish or positive deviation with respect to the RSI, I mean the MACD as well, but also, I mean really all three of these, so the RSI, stock RSI, and the MACD. But again, at this point, I mean really it's all just up to Bitcoin, as it has been the entire time. It could go up, it could go down, especially on these lower time frames. You don't always want to get too hung up on certain aspects of it because it's a little bit more volatile. Again, we can see getting rejected from this dark blue moving average right here at around 18,000. Pretty much continues all the way back up. But here for the last thing that I want to go over for Bitcoin, I went over this chart, my most recent video. The idea here is that with each, you can see there's with each of these 3 green arrows, especially with the row of Heikin-Ashi candles, when you start to see these bodies thin out a lot with the candles with major wicks, typically means that there will be some sort of reversal. It's opposite to what it has been doing, which I obviously in this case it's going to be towards the upside. But so we've actually ended up closing. Obviously we began the new year, we have a new candle now. This red trend line, or not this trend line, this red moving average, this tiny one right here, was not on here when I made this video about 36 hours ago. And this does actually go right down to around 10,000 on the dot. So again, further confirming now on the yearly chart, which is pretty much the best you can get to on TradingView. Again, just confirming prices down to approximately 10,000, absolute worst case scenario. I still do personally believe that that will be seen sometime within this year, and I do think that if Bitcoin tops out this year, obviously it will close the candle somewhere, or it will wick all the way up to as high as I've said, around 250,000 approximately, which goes all the way up to up here. Or if we do extend into 2024, it would carry off a little bit further, which could also again be another just as likely possibility. But pretty much this 12 monthly chart is finding confluence with, agreeing with all the lower time frame analysis I've done, again all following through with the highest time frame chart that we could look at here for Bitcoin on TradingView. But all that aside, to go ahead and get here for Verge, this coin, is not looking too good, personally, in my opinion. It will still see, I mean, it could not. I don't really know what's going to happen at the end of the day. It could crash instead of seeing a bull run this time around, because it is obviously on both the log and the non-log chart losing macro strength over time. It didn't even set a new all-time high last bull run. It looks a lot like XRP did something similar. XMR, I believe Stellar did too. You can kind of tell when these coins are losing strength over time. I mean, eventually, I mean, if it even goes up to as high as I've said right here, approximately 12 cents, 20 cents at the highest. If for whatever reason, given the way I view the structure of the entire market, going back to the way Bitcoin is structured, given that I believe it fundamentally sways the entire market, which I believe most people can agree on at the end of the day. If we see something similar to this previous bull run, it would put it up towards like $55 to $63, which would give this market value of this coin around $1 trillion, which is, it's possible as long as it does it when Bitcoin's worth more than that. But I don't think that will happen. Like, I really don't think that'll happen, although the possibility is there. I think around 12 to 20 cents is most likely, if even that. I mean, it could get lost right here at around like 2.5 to 3.5 cents or so. But I do personally see this one likely continuing to lose strength over time, and eventually with the idea like this, I mean, it's kind of just going to see, you can see it more in a linear fashion right here with these purple range that I have up here. But to draw a curve, I mean, I believe it will, I mean, it might continue sideways for a period of time, kind of just trade more sideways. But I mean, whenever you see these coins kind of doing this, they're kind of just, as I said, they're kind of just losing strength over time. So they more so have a downwards trajectory. You can still make money off of them, but like the bull runs are only going to be like 5,000, 10,000% at most, when you could be looking at a lot of other options that are going to move a lot better, may even have better utility than whatever this coin offers, which I don't know too much about it on that, in that context. But just to point out some other things I have on this chart, obviously these arrows, I'm drawing similarity between these two periods of time with the price movement in those periods of time, with these yellow or these blue M's. Again, I'm just kind of drawing self-similarity with it in regards to like fractal price structure and the self-similarity, and how it just if the price of the market, just whether or not it's the actual market or the crypto market, there's a very nice harmonic value and aspect to it, which is what I'm trying to point out with this. Seeing a similar M pattern on a smaller time scale, which again I believe is leading into the bull market, further strengthened by the analysis I've gone over for Bitcoin in this video. But to go ahead and wrap this coin up, if we do continue lower, especially if we lose around 1/5 of a penny or so, we could plummet to as low as 1/100th of a penny, around 1/50th of a penny, and then around 1/12th of a penny. So if this thing continues to go lower, we'll see a very massive drop, about worst case scenario another 96% or so. But that was about all that I really wanted to touch on in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, hopefully you're able to learn or take something away from this video, and I hope you all have a blessed day. So I forgot to add this to the video, so I'm just splicing it in here at the end, but I wanted to touch on this chart. So this is an all-time Bitcoin price chart that you can find. Just look up like all-time Bitcoin price chart. It's like bitcoinzoinrack.com. But this goes literally all the way, like as far as I've seen anything go. And what I want to get across, when I was mentioning in this video, when I would say cycle 3, phase 1, 2, whatever, things like that, when I'm referring to the way that I view the structure of Bitcoin and pretty much the entire crypto market as a whole. So each of these, it goes from pink to pink, so there's 4 peaks within each cycle. You have our pink, so our first peak, and then we have a purple peak, then a red peak, and then to end off the first cycle we have this second pink dot right here. So again, these 4 peaks within one cycle. So we start right here, we begin our second cycle, and then we go to, again, we have our purple dot, second peak, third peak, red dot, which the pink to the red dot is phase 1. And then once we go from this red dot once more to the last pink dot, ending off the second cycle, from this red dot to this pink dot, that is phase 2 of a cycle. So far we have just ended, again, like I said, cycle 2. So again, we're at our pink dot, then we go to our purple dot, so we're at our first peak which again goes back to this peak back here and this peak back here. So we are seeing each time, you can see how the bull markets and the bear markets are lasting longer, the returns are diminishing, and whatnot, according to the logarithmic growth over time. Again, the same idea down here for the bottoms. We have our 4 bottoms with respect, starting off with turquoise or blue and then ending with turquoise. So we have turquoise, first bottom, dark blue, second bottom, like a periwinkle, third bottom, and then ending our turquoise, and then, as I said, so forth and so on. We have our dark blue bottom, periwinkle, and then we have ending off right here our second turquoise. So far we are next thing to connect whenever the next high comes in, according to what I've gone over in this video. I do personally believe that one of those 3 scenarios in some form or fashion will end up playing out, as I said, with the black, the white, and the yellow pattern. I thinking the yellow pattern more likely, but we'll connect whenever that happens. We'll, again, like a pattern in this image, we'll bring up from this red one, draw it over and connect. You can also, if you just, like, for example, single out the pink, so the hot pink and the turquoise, you can see we have a rectangle right here. We have a larger rectangle right here. It's just going to grow, and I probably will try to figure out some sort of factor of this over time, some like a ratio, as I've gone over already in the charts in this video, to see if I could accurately bring this out over time to predict the bottoms and the tops. But that was all that I really wanted to add on here at the end of this video.
Don't nobody wanna die alone, but that's the road that we all on. I can never have a